Welcome everyone to our latest lecture with Dr. Cheryl Miller, where she will be talking about the story of the Cheryl D. Miller collection at Stanford University and her award-winning design business plan for those of you who are interested in creative entrepreneurship. So get your iPads or your notes ready to take notes and learn from this national treasure that we have with us today. I want to give you a little bit of background. Dr. Cheryl Miller is a designer, author, and theologian who is best known for her diversity, equity, and inclusion advocacy for Black graphic designers in the industry and marketplace. Miller holds a Master's of Science degree in Communications Design from Pratt Institute and a BFA from the Maryland Institute College of Arts. She also did foundational studies at Rhode Island School of Design. She also holds a Master's of Divinity degree from the Union Theological Seminary in New York City, and she was recently awarded an honorary doctorate from Vermont College of Fine Arts for her tireless advocacy of Black designers. And she currently serves as a distinguished senior lecturer in design at the University of Texas at Austin. So we have the great pleasure of welcoming you, Dr. Miller, and we look forward to hearing your story today. So I extend the floor to you.
Well, Dr. Cross, every time you ask me to be in the numbers, I am happy, and it's good to be with everyone. I'm going to take my time through this lecture. It's not that it's a lot, but just write your questions down. You can put them in the Q&A area, which is different than the chat. So you can do all your amens and hallelujahs in the chat, your questions in the Q&A, and I usually try to hang out until I answer every question. All of my lectures I try to do them differently so that I'm not repeating myself over and over again, the same story. So if you follow me around, I try to give you something different. And today it's my pleasure to talk to you about the business, the portfolio, and more importantly, I had an interesting template for business, and I do believe that the template is still it's just a business template that you can use today. And given the climate we are with business and things that are going on, it's politically and sociologically and everything that's going on, it really is a template that can work. And so with that, I'm going to share screen and start sharing the lecture. What's really been a blessing for me is that the work is now all collected at Stanford University. They came to my home and spent quite a few days and evenings with me. We packed it all up, and it's in the process of its archival life at Stanford. And we'll talk about that, but that's what's exciting for me, is that all of my work, I kind of knew to save. I knew that it was unique what I was doing, and I guess other folks thought so too. So now it's everything that I've done professionally. My records are and portfolio, and all my writings and business writing is at the Cheryl Miller Collection at Stanford University. So let's get to that story and give you some how-to so that you can do this too. Okay. All right, so you should be able to see my screen, and we're going to start the show from the beginning. Okay, I'm going to go full screen. All right, there we go. So you should be seeing the Cheryl Miller collection. And it's got a YouTube. Let's see if it plays. If not, we'll advance along. Yes, it does. Okay.
It's taken me.
Go ahead and make this art board a little bit longer, because what I want to do down here is have different sections for the various master classes that we offer: design, photography, so on and so
What happened there? Let's try it one more time. Yeah, there we go.
It's taken me. To the library for a library workshop. So this.
I don't know why it's not playing. I had trouble with YouTube. I'll go back to the lecture. Yeah, I had trouble with YouTube yesterday with my lecture. So we'll just keep going. Give me a thumbs up. You should be able to see me, and you should see the opening slide in me. Yes? Yes? Okay, perfect. All right. So I've got a collection at Stanford, and let's talk about the business is Cheryl D. Miller Design, New York, social impact graphic design, the corporate communications firm that defined the civil rights era, storytelling of a socially disenfranchised, marginalized community. I had a corporate communications firm, and the collection is reflective of all of my writings, and everything that is, including all of my memoir research, manuscripts, my portfolio, all of my business ledgers and folders and items that go with taking in a job. I mean, everything that I've done professionally is in this collection. And I had a very interesting business with African-American corporations and organizations defining themselves after the civil rights era, and a cross-reference of Fortune 500 companies on a national level that were breaking ground, incorporating people of color into their corporate communications. Like Dr. Cross said, I've been in art school. Uniquely, you know, this conversation of BIPOC, 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 I am uniquely, really 100%, whatever BIPOC is, I am BIPOC, okay? I have 4 grandparents. So in other words, I have 2 parents, 2 different races. I have 4 grandparents, 4 different races, from 4 different places. They're all back here in my little nook. And wow, that was a lot to negotiate growing up, but it's the truth. Very, 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 very unique story, way before BIPOC was BIPOC. Okay. I was raised African-American, and that was the best thing. My dad felt that this crazy family of mine could be. And so I was raised African-American. I am a Black woman, but I am BIPOC. Anytime you got 4 grandparents, 4 different races from 4 different places. It's hard to negotiate which one you are. What's really unique is my mother's story. And if you've heard me lecture before, this is my family tree. And just kind of going around the tree. I spend time here because you'll get a dynamic of the challenge that I had racially and breaking into this business after the civil rights movement. But my family is indigenous Danish West Indian. In other words, they are from the Danish West Indies, U.S. Virgin Islands, way before Carnival Cruise and the America purchased the islands. So we're an indigenous DWI family. That's a mix of the origins of the diaspora from the Danish and Ghanaian slave trade. And what's unique is that my great grandmother is top right, and we called her Bada. And she is from Tortola and St. John's and Ghanaian descent. My grandmother is in the middle, coming down the chart. She mixed, and my grandmother is half white and Ghanaian descent, Danish/Irish and Ghanaian descent. And my mother is Filipino Creole. My grandmother mixed, World War I story. My Filipino grandfather came in with the Americans on transfer day, March 31st. When the United States purchased the islands, he was mess labor for the executive Navy yachts that came in to bring democracy to the Virgin Islands. And my grandmother and her, what they call her mixie friends, worked USO. The Americans are coming, the Americans are coming. And my grandfather and the Filipino crew were with the Americans. They met at the USO, and he gave my grandmother 3 Filipino babies. And my mom was the youngest, and found her way eventually to Howard University, and the rest of the story belongs to me and my brother. Down at the bottom is my Afro-Caribbean cousin. He's a direct nephew, second or third nephew to my great grandmother. And he's a family historian, and traced our family all the way back to Ghana. He's a chief. They received him, and up the chart are the tribal chiefs for my family, and the seal is one of the chiefs of Ghana that started the 1733 insurrection in St. John's, which is a recorded history of slave upheaval. I am a historian for the Danish and Ghanaian slave trade. I know a lot about the slave trade overall. I lecture about it in relation to my decolonizing history lectures. But I specifically know Denmark and Ghanaian relations in the slave trade. And my family is a direct derivative of this. And I have my maternal DNA is Ghanaian, and it just moves right up that chart from my Ghanaian descent great grandmother. Yeah, mom was Filipino Creole, crazy story, but she came out looking 100% Filipino and ended up coming to Howard University and met my father, who he too had a mystery race story. And he's my grandfather there, the white man, he's white Native American. That's my great grandmother right there in the middle. So out of this 4-parent kind of scenario, his mother, my father's mother, my paternal grandmother, is 100% African American. I grew up during the civil rights era. I'm a civil rights kid, born before, during, and practiced after. I won my first top picture there. I won my first art award as a Girl Scout. Just like the kids are on the iPad now, what was new was the television. And I grew up during the era of Mickey Mouse, and you guys have Bob Ross, and I have John Nagy. He used to get on television and do charcoal drawings. I was influenced with that. I grew up in Museum Town, Washington, D.C., and all the school trips were always to the National Gallery of Art, all the museums. Um, I grew up in the museum uh, community in town. And then uniquely, my mom worked for Howard University. Her offices were behind the School of Fine Arts. And so I grew up on Howard's campus in their gallery. And the practitioners, Sam Gilliam, Alma Thomas, Jeff Donaldson, were all practicing shows in and out of African American artists, in and out of Howard's gallery. I was exposed to and really influenced by the Washington Colorfield School, which is a cadre of contemporary artists that spun out of New York City, and they had their own they had their own village, if you will, in Washington, the Washington Colorfield School. They're known for geometric shapes in the 60s and colors and lines. And Alma Thomas was in that group also. So these are some of my origins. And the first thing that appears in the collection are, I am a trade writer. I've been a trade writer for over 35 years. And so all of the articles, if you want to be a trade writer and you want to get a voice in the design business, I have lectures on YouTube when YouTube is working that explain how I broke into the trade writing business. So I've got a lecture on one of my interesting lectures is about the history of where the Black designers, and I discuss the trade writing, the history of this document. This document is my thesis from 1985, Pratt Institute. It got published, and if I can get my YouTube working again, I'll let you hear Michael Grant, who works with Google Labs, was a scholar at Stanford, and he went off looking for this document and went to the librarian, and ultimately Regina Roberts had to contact me to get a permission for the scholars group to read it. She couldn't reproduce it without my copyright permission. So this thesis in 1985, Transcending the Problems of the Black Graphic Designer to Success in the Marketplace, is the first piece of scholarship that I know of. There have been others subsequently, but mine is the first that's kind of rich in data, kind of analyzing this dearth of exposure for Black creatives. It's pretty technical, a lot of footnotes, some data, a lot of interviews, and it got published into Print Magazine, published it in 1987. And what that did for me is it launched me on a national platform. So I've been an advocate for design justice and equality and equity in the design field a very long time. And especially after this article got published. And it zoomed me to a national platform. And so in the collection, all of the handwritten manuscripts, all of the note taking, everything that it took to write the thesis, even the manual, the Chicago manual, we had guidelines, Pratt's guidelines for writing and submitting a thesis, cassette recordings of everybody that I interviewed. It's rich in all of the data and footnotes behind all of the scholarship and all of the writings. So I had saved everything. And definitely what's interesting is I saved all of the interview cassettes for the quotes and things that made their way to the thesis, and then a whole nother set that found its way to the article. AIGA began a trajectory of diversity and inclusion initiatives. They started in AIGA 1990, 91. I think they've had a half a dozen dispensations of leadership. But our group started after the article was published. Carolyn Hightower was the president at the time. And there was a cadre of my peers, and we came together to try to tackle D&I in the industry. And there are a couple of these documents that are around. You can get them. I have them. Okay, you can get them at Stanford. And they all kind of start the same way. Cheryl Miller didn't know it to publishing her article. And I always like to lift up the people that were with me, my peers that, once the article got published and the thesis got published and recognized, we bonded together, and we were the first, really the committee for AIGA. And that would be Michelle Washington, Fo Wilson, Roger Tucker III, John Morning, and there are others that are all listed here. We're the first AIGA practitioners trying to tackle this, and we bonded with a woman her name was Elsie Cross, and she was a corporate D&I type. Her work is recorded too. She's passed on, but there are a lot of players that came to this discussion of design, equality, and equity and inclusion. And it has a rich history. Like I said, I give a lecture on this, but it has a beginning, and all of my notes and records for it appear in my collection. These are vintage documents, 1991, which explain the dilemma, my writings, my community, my peers, and we started and helped AIGA become aware. And so, like I said, since then they've had a half a dozen department chairs and can have continued the work, but we were the ones that started it back in 1990. In 2016, Print asked me to publish again. Black designers still missing in action. I am the author of a 30-year-old print article. And so I went and did the same thing again, State of the Union, went back and tried to find everybody that I reported about 30 years ago, the lay of the land, what's new. I just taken this sabbatical time. This just appeared October 2020. And I talk about my final findings, which is, again, I have lectures on that. This is really fascinating. My work points to the runaway slave and the African slave as being the first graphic designer, slave artisan, and the systemic racist root of our disenfranchisement in the community stems from emancipation and the end of slavery, and the white men being afraid of new competition that's now free. And the systemic practices began there into our trade unions, keeping Blacks out, erasure. My article here explains all of that, and my current work and writing brings forth all of this incredible scholarship that leads all the way back to the slave being the first Black graphic designer. The business, I had major corporations were the primary target. And here's your template. I would have a major corporation, and what people don't realize is that there was a lot of advocacy and push by the ad community in New York City during the early 80s, by the NAACP and the Urban League, to force corporations to include people of color, that if we were spending money, that we should be represented in the ads. So the corporation started what they call segmented marketing. And my primary client would have been a corporation that was prepared to change their venue to address adding people of color. What people don't know is that Black folks just didn't, and Hispanic folks, mostly then it was just Puerto Rican community. Um, it's broadened now, but being monochromatic, people don't know the push that it took for us to just appear in a McDonald's ad or Coca-Cola ad. There was a whole cadre of Black creatives in New York City that used the vehicle of NAACP, the Urban League, to push the envelope of these corporations to put us and represent us. If we're giving you money, put us in the ads. So with that, they needed people to put it, professionals to put us in their ads. And so that was a part of my business, was putting faces of color in corporate communications and things, the documents that represented corporations. I kept a job log for all of this, every job that I ever did, beginning 1984. You see time 001. I kept a ledger, kept a box, kept a folder to tell the story. All of my, here's one of my, once I got on the national platform with AIGA, I was a judge and keynote speaking. I've always been a speaker. And so as a young woman, I got on the playing field, and all of my press shots and the like are in the collection. One, not only was I winning art awards, art director club awards, etc. I started winning business awards. This is one of my, I was completely shocked. Okay, completely shocked. I received a Crystal Staircase Award for business from Philip Morris, and flew down to Florida, all the pictures, the award, and you know, it was just, I've always had a knack for winning awards. And so here I am in that same picture. All of the PR shots are in the collection, all of newspaper clippings, trade article clippings. It's amazing. I had a beautiful business. I was a part of minority recruitment partnership with Ross Goldfarb Associates. So I would help to place Black designers in with search firms and review portfolios. And so I was constantly being cited in those works of placing Black creatives into New York marketplace. So I helped with minority design recruitment. And all of it came together in, I have an appearance in the AIGA Design Journey. Michelle Washington wrote my biography, which is an honor to get in the Design Journey. 2015, I'm featured. And so the whole journey, which was more than just doing the artwork, is all the backstory for all of this stuff is in it, you know, it's in the collection. Michael asked one more time looking for this thesis, and that's when Stanford Libraries found me for that permission. And I had collected everything, and then all of my date books, all of my records, so that, you know, people could, it was an interesting process, because Regina said, Cheryl, people are gonna research you in years to come, and all of your notes, every scrap, your thought, all my journals, my calendars, then all of my memoir notes and records about my family. I said, why do you want that? And says, oh, well, people are gonna be interested in this story you have of having being now I know it was BIPOC. I didn't know what it was then. It was crazy. I have 4 grandparents, 4 races, 4 different places, and I'm just trying to hand dance in DC. I just, I'm like, okay, it's just, I put it all in a box, Professor Cross. We were talking about it, and there it is, all organized. I know that's hard to believe, but you can't have a collection if you don't collect. And so somehow from the time I was a kid, I believed that what I was doing was really important. So I just saved everything, kept a ledger of everything. It was all in order. And she came to my home and we reboxed everything. You can see the boxes in the background. She said, Ms. Miller, the only thing that you didn't do was you could have boxed everything in our, acid boxes and our archival folders. And so we pulled it all out and we packaged it into these boxes. And it was I looked back and I said, I can't believe I did this. Professor Krause, I could not believe that I had done this much graphic design, performance, and artwork. Okay. And I couldn't believe. Plus I donated my library. So, I had vintage design books, typography books, manuals, and it's all in the archival process now, digitizing it and so forth. But this is hard to believe. I signed the papers over, tractor trailer came to the house and they loaded it up and off it went. I live in Connecticut and off it went to California. I mean, I worried for what all that was going to do. I was worried about it. I was concerned about all this artwork that and the work and the story behind all of the pieces. I was very, very concerned about where it would land. So it was a great pressure off of me to know that the university was going to receive it, document it, and preserve it so that young scholars, into the future can work with it. Because, I have quite a collection. Is all I can say. I will never say I'm the only one. I might be the only one that saved everything, but we're going to look at the portfolio. And I was very fortunate that a lot of the pieces were celebratory. So the first of this, the 15th of that, the 25th of that, on the other, they were all, so here's an example of what I mean. These publications, we're going to go into it. They documented, a lot of history for the African-American community. The template I had was very unique. And this is really, really important. So I had a Fortune 500 company. And once I was changing their iconography, they paid for me as in-kind service to work with corporations that they sponsored. So this is the Joint Center for Political Studies, and their corporate sponsor was IBM. See, so IBM would pay for all of these fancy books that told their stories. And that was the model. Okay, one client made 2. I would get a corporate client putting people of color into their literature, and then they would send me over to the national organization that they were sponsoring to help enhance their corporate communications. So one client made 2. And that is a very unique, that's a blessed model. Okay. So I can only tell you that I had corporate communication work and National African American corporate communications that was paid by corporate sponsors. And we just were premier like that. And this is an example. This is a NASA commission. May Jameson, they wanted a launch poster. Incredible story. That portrait of May Jameson is done by Charles Lilly. And we know Charles. We all know Charles. He did the portrait of Malcolm X. So I had a team of illustrators and photographers and writers, and I was very fortunate. Everybody wanted to do a work for my studio, and that's because I would make sure everybody got portfolio pieces. I was good for a portfolio piece at least. So let's look at some of the pieces, which I'm really proud of. I'm a typographer and a book designer. And what's I'm still really proud about, the books are timeless. There's nothing in my portfolio that looks like it was done. Pieces look like they were done yesterday. This is United Negro College Fund, sponsored by Time Inc. You know, in and of themselves, they couldn't pay for all this treatment. And the print pieces have all different kinds. This is original corporate photography. I'm a typographic designer using the Swiss grid system, clean corporate work, and a lot of black and white photography, the dramatic work, John Penderhughes at Eckstein. And I would make high-end corporate pieces that would be used for fundraising and presentations and things. All of this would be a corporate sponsor for United Negro College Fund. And so, you know, this is a vellum paper, white ink on it. I mean, just using and pressing printing techniques to make elegant books. And so we did their annual report. Okay, lots of annual reports. I'm an annual report designer, so all of them, before it all turned to digital and PDF, you know, I made beautiful, beautiful annual reports for our national African American organizations. I got a chance to photograph everybody, meet everybody. Okay, it was aggressive, assertive, New York business. I had to pay the rent. This was not a freelance out of my bedroom window. I had a staff. It was a real firm. This piece was done for Time Warner, and this is an example of their social responsibility report. This is, you'll see him out here now, Gil Ashby. And I wanted to feature his work. Like I said, everybody, I tried to make sure everybody got a piece of work out of me, you know, so I went looking for my friends. I said, Gil, I got a nice project. And so for Time Inc. And these are his drawings. And all of the original drawings are in the collection. Not only is the publication, but all the original pastel drawings. And, you know, he's a beautiful professor of illustration out in the Midwest. And you'll see him out here on Instagram, Gil Ashby. More UNCF. There's a YouTube video of the entire portfolio. You can go over there and see it in motion. I'm flipping pages and talking. And this is Philip Morris. And, you know, they were always concerned about their image because, you know, the tobacco company. This is Ed Eckstein's photography, a lot of white space, grid. We went around the world taking pictures and telling the Philip Morris story, wherever tobacco was grown and harvested. And so we went out into the community, into the globe, and put together this book, the book I just showed you. My books are history books. This is 20 years of Joint Center. So it's full of 20 years of the civil rights movement. And my firm, we had a style for doing these institutional publications. NAACP Legal Defense and Educational Fund. This is John Penderhughes. A lot of gripping black and white photography, making these elegant social impact publications and reports. Like I said, I'm a type designer, so there's nothing here that would make the books trend. They hold up. Jackie Robinson Foundation, Rachel Robinson gave me unpublished photos of Jackie Robinson, and we did these gold inset pages featuring Jackie with the kids and so forth, and did a lot. This is YWCA national, and you know, again, see, women first for 135 years. So it was always these celebratory occasions that we would do gala books and invitations, and And of course, I'm winning awards too. Stanford's got a stack of awards. I thought I gave them all. I still got a stack of them in my basement. I'm like, oh my God, I've just been very, very fortunate to have won awards, which is a lecture in itself. Miller, how do you win awards? And so all these beautiful books. We did BET, you all often hear. I did the very, very first, very, 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 very first BET prototype for Bob Johnson. Along the way, and I keep servicing them with different things. And this is their first annual report when they went public. The digital frames are done by, we're transitioning from print production into digital. These were done on the first Macintosh. These plates, cover and inside left covers, these were done by Michelle Washington. She was breaking into digital illustration. And so she did some work for us. And annual reports, interesting business, upfront section, back section with facts and figures. We had a style using all different types of griffs and cap initials, and our books just had a style. This is a piece, we kind of had a knack for this new tool called an advertorial. McDonald's was our client, and it had to fit within the context of YSB magazine, which was, Fo Wilson was the art director of the magazine, but McDonald's was my client, and we had to put in an insert, which is called an advertorial. So an advertorial is an ad that doesn't talk about product or service. It might have content, and so it had to look like the magazine. So Fo was the art director for the magazine, and McDonald's was my client. We had to match, the advertorial had to match Fo's design for the magazine. This is one of our favorite pieces, and we did work, other work for McDonald's. This is Charles Lilly again for Congressional Black Caucus. We did the gala, and this poster behind me is a favorite one that, everybody wanted one of these posters. Aaron Douglas is inspired. And I think this piece behind me is 1991 gala. But all of the books had, there's Charles, he would thank me. Everybody would thank me. They would give me, come by, photographers would take my PR shots for me, bio shots. That's why I have such pretty black and white pictures of me when I was 30 and 35. They would say, thank you, Cheryl, come by, take a photo of me in my office. And this is Charles. He thanked me for giving him May Jameson's portrait. And he had several, he gave me the last dozen or so posters from Malcolm X. So I really had a good run with this, guys. It was fun. To Cheryl, from one artist to another, Charles Lilly, 1994. And so he did the illustration. You can see there, Charles Lilly, 1992. So he gave me his last ones. He said, Cheryl, everybody would bring me things like, one day you're going to be famous. Let me give you something. I got more stuff that people would give me. I'm like, but guess what? It all went in the collection. His work is in the collection with me. Okay. If you came by the office and brought me a piece of work, guess what? I saved it. You signed it. It's in the collection with me. And this goes with a whole other story I have to give you, bless his heart, but this is the iconic, and he did that poster for me for NASA. These posters are in 3 museums. They're collected now. I'm very proud. They're at Stanford, at the Poster House in New York City, and the Design Museum in The Hague in the Netherlands. Yeah, this is the one that's behind me. Actually, you can get it. I have one of these print-on-demand sites. If you want one, you can print one and put it in a mat or frame or something. Yeah, this is Aaron Douglas. I said, inspired. I said, let's get that runaway slave standing up defying odds, expanding opportunities. Yeah, this was a very, very popular one. One of the things that I used to do is buy overs. So that's why my husband would say, we gotta move this stuff again. All right, so a minimum of 250, Professor Cross, I bought a minimum of 250 to 1,000 overs of everything I produced. I had samples. So I gave all of my artists samples so they could have, we needed portfolios. This is, it's just, you need a portfolio. So I made sure that people got work and people got portfolios so I could get more jobs. I've been at this a long time. I've been coaching designers since 1974. Everything I have, it's like, here, take, and so take a portfolio piece, take some money for the job and, try to do something with it. It was really, and a lot of what I'm proud about is that most everyone that was with me one way or the other have had full careers and prospered during a season when this was impossible for Black creatives. It just didn't exist. This is Yvonne Buchanan. She's a professor out in Syracuse. And we did a series for Chase Manhattan Bank and their presence in Harlem. We did this for several years. She's a beautiful illustrator. And they kept coming back for more Harlem Week. And all of my, a lot of my business letters and contracts and things, all in the collection. So if people want to see the business, the mind behind it, these are sketches I did for BET. Like I said, BET has had so many corporate identities. What's clear in my memory is I did the very first one for Bob Johnson when he was trying to put it all together. So when you hear and see that story, I did the very, very first star with the B and the E and the T. And I always tease and say, locate me. All right. I started college touring the day Martin Luther King was assassinated. And I met Bob Johnson when I worked as a television designer, and Gail King was in the news production. She was production. I think they call it production assistant in the news department, and Oprah was in Baltimore. And that's the BET story. Bob Johnson came down one day and said, I'm doing BET. Can you do a star, a B, E, and the T? So over the course, I did the first one, and they've had so many. You can Google and it's like, oh my God. I did some work for their holdings company and the annual report, which was a big deal, their first annual report. And so I did a lot of letter form. These are television stations. I was the first art director for Howard's PBS station. And what's unbelievable is all this work was done by hand, no Adobe. No, there was no Adobe, no such thing. Okay. All of my personal stuff that was in my office, people are fascinated with my family life. Yeah, I have a family and I'm a corporate wife, and I had pictures of my husband in my office, and he's been a blessing for me over the years, and we've been doing Cheryl Miller Design since we were teens. It was hard. I wrote a prayer with Cheryl Waldron and the Black Designers Creed for Strength. It was not easy. And so we wrote this prayer together, and everybody who came through came and got the creed. And, it was like, Lord, just help us do the impossible, because it was racist, guys. There's just no question about it. But somehow I had, I don't know what I had. I had the strength to plow through it, and I'm still here, and I was telling Dr. Cross that if you follow, you're free to find me on LinkedIn. You're free to find me on Instagram. I talk to everybody all the time because I didn't have anybody. There were no mentors. No one took an interest No one took an interest in me with design. I had an academic coach for my writing, Dr. Leslie King Hammond, and I had one family friend who opened up his network for business. And the key to my success is, if there be any to acclaim, was that I'm a businesswoman. I learned to sell Cheryl Miller, and I had a network for business. So sell, always telling somebody, like even now, you see me all over the place. You see me all over, you see me all over the place. I'm telling people I got lectures, I got stories. And there isn't a day that, I'm not scheduling a lecture or writing or talking about it. And the stories are important for you. And so, sitting in my boxes does no good. All right. And so we're here with this. And now I'm on to decolonizing history. I've lived a lot of history that if I don't, the history that I know, if I don't document it, when I go to glory, there's a lot of stuff in catalogs you don't even know that you should be looking for. It far exceeds what you can find in Google, because I lived through it. I don't know about anybody else, but I lived through a lot of history. And so I know where to go in catalogs. And if I don't write it down or jot it down, you guys aren't going to find it. And you'll just find what's on Google. There's 13 designers you should know, 28, that's a couple blogs out. But we've started, 40 of us have started a collection at Stanford, the history of Black graphic design in North America. I've asked everybody to put their notes together and just give it to Stanford, and they will do what they do, archive and put things together. I like saving, I like saving and collecting things so that you all will have it. It was a very difficult season. It was racist. There's just no question about it. And one of my other lectures, I go into, the origins of it. But I started school touring just a little of world history. I started school touring the day Martin Luther King was assassinated. What was I facing as a teen to get into this business, to get into school? You can't imagine. Like I said, that's another lecture, Dr. Cross. One of the things that, and I'm going to show you the actual proposal and talk about how I came up with jobs. The first thing is I would always find a niche and fill a void. So you have to find where there's a need and find a niche and fill it. Okay. So as an example, we each have a very unique voice. We each are special. Okay. And you've got to take an inventory of where your voice is different and how you're different. Listen, I don't know. I don't know another authentically genuine, okay, BIPOC designer of my age. I don't know another one. My friends were African American. I don't know any, I didn't say there weren't anybody else. What I know is that my story is unique. And I documented it. Okay, so in documenting it, it's genuine, it's it's authentic, and it's factual. I don't know anybody I didn't say there wasn't anybody else. I didn't say I was the only one. I just don't know anybody else. Okay, that can tell you I was BIPOC before there was BIPOC, and I can prove it. Okay, plus I got Ghanaian DNA from my tribe. Who can tell you that? And then tell you that they're an acclaimed trade writer and a designer. And I'm like, this thing never fit till now, Professor Cross. It didn't fit anywhere till now. So I'm like, All right. Everybody wants to know what is, everybody's talking BIPOC. BIPOC, BIPOC, BIPOC. I'm like, y'all want to know what this is? Let me tell you. Everybody wants decolonized education and graphic design and this, that, and the other. I got, by the time this semester's over, I'm gonna have what, maybe it's 15 weeks, it's about 27 lectures. All right, fill a void. I don't know another one that can do this the way that I can do it. I didn't say I was the only one. I just don't know any other BIPOC graphic designer old enough with a voice to be able to document it for you. I didn't say I was the only one. I didn't say I was the first one. I said I'm the only one. Okay. And so this is what we do. And this is how you create your business. You've got to be the first one. You've got to be the only one. And you got to fill a void. This is a part of the formula for developing business. Find your voice and let it fill a need. And then you have to know business. And I'm going to talk a little bit about, these are my tips. You have to know how to run a business. And I'm going to take some time and show you some documents. So you have to know how to write a proposal. You have to know how to write your incorporation papers. I learned how to write an invoice. I learned how to write a proposal. I learned all of, taxes and accounting. And, I spent time learning business. Business is business. Doesn't matter what the business is. So after I mastered art, I'm like, girl, you go into business, you better learn business. And then I've had, genuinely, Dr. Cross, I'm all over the place because not only did I do this for me, but I did it for, I've done it for everybody that's crossed my path that was interested in this. Living your life for yourself is your story. Living your life for others is your legacy. Leave a legacy. I've left a legacy. It's all in these 50 boxes. And I'm still leaving. I got boxes and stuff. Look at my nook. I got stuff all over the place. And when I go to Glory, the kids know, put it in a box and send it to Stanford. I'm an archivist to my own collection. So it's set up that when, I go to the big creator in the sky, just take mommy's box and this time, just box it up and send it. It meets the rest of my work. Okay, very interesting. And so there we go. That's 50 years of a story in 50 minutes. I'm going to show you some documents. They loaded it up. That's Regina. I have a motto: out of my hands, but not out of my life. 50 boxes, leaving my hands, but not my life. And this is my little icon, the collection, Cheryl Miller. Okay, so let's stop share here. Let's breathe a minute. I'm going to give you, I'll tell you what, I'll take a question or two, Dr. Cross, or we can wait. I'll show you the business stuff. Want to take a break or take a question, or you want to jump right into the other documents? You tell me what you want to do, and that's what we'll do.
Let's see if there's any questions. Any questions from our audience? You can post it in the Q&A. So, and the chat is open as well, but if you can just post it in the Q&A, that would be helpful.
Okay, and then I will. I'll pull up. I'll pull up the documents and we can look at them and you can take notes with that. So we're going to look at bylaws, and we're going to look at content of a proposal, and I'm going to show you a deck. All right. So a lot of times I don't wait for people. I don't wait for people for my phone to ring. I don't do that. I mean, it will ring. Trust me, it will ring on its own. But I constantly, when I was in business and even now, I look for opportunity. So like if you follow me on LinkedIn, I'm telling everybody, I'm like, are you all paying attention to what's going on? I said, Dr. Seuss is dead. Dr. Seuss is dead. All right. And everybody's got these little animated figures. I don't know what's the program for that. Everybody's learning how to do that. Dr. Seuss is gone. They took him down. All right. So the minute, if I were practicing, the minute I saw that, I'd be right on it. I'd already have Dr. Seuss's repayment. Take off the hat and dreads are underneath. Trust me, it would already been there, Dr. Cross. And I would be pitching it. Okay, I would be pitching PBS. I would be pitching, I'm already ready. Caillou, this little Caillou, he got taken down too. PBS took Caillou off because he was making everybody spastic. All of a sudden they wake up and find out Caillou's making all the kids crazy. I'm like, are you guys ready? Are you guys ready? Right. And I'm like, go pitch. Go pitch. Tell them you're ready. Go knock on the door. Caillou's dead. Dr. Seuss is dead. Somebody out of our community must have the replacement. You don't wait for them coming to look for you. They're not going to come look for you. That's not how this goes. You got to say, I have the solution. I am the solution. You have to, I'm on it. I am on LinkedIn. I read. Oh my God. And I collect design. I'm like, I stay current. I never know when I'm going to see that I'm the solution. And the corporate faux pas, Dr. Cross, these corporations make more mess because they don't have eyes to see. All right. And Black Twitter will take you down. The minute the wrong thing goes up, you're down. And you should be right there knocking on, I would knock on the doors. Okay. And go to the D&I office. Back then it was Equal Opportunity or Social Responsibility office. I would find sales promotion department, marketing department, and go say, did you see what you all did? Don't do that again. Don't do that again. One of the things, they did, they took, Ralph Lauren took the graphics from Alpha Graphics or Omega Graphics and put them on cargo pants. Black Twitter took them down. And I'm like, Ralph Lauren, I'd have been knocking right on that door. Are you people crazy? Are you people crazy? Here, let me design some graphics for your cargo pants. Let's do this right. You don't appropriate and take from Black fraternities and put their symbols on. You just take them and put them on cargo pants? And just because they're Ralph Lauren? No. Black Twitter took them down. Okay. See, so you have to watch for these things and then be aggressive and say that, I can do better. I would write proposals and make business. So a lot of it is waiting for business. It's going to come. And a lot of it is making business, seeing opportunity and going and pitching, so that's why I had the proposals. I would go and say, you need me. Do you know what you're doing? You don't know what you're doing. You need me. And so I made work. And that's what I don't see a lot happening, is the assertiveness to create opportunity. I see a lot of performance if it comes through the door and if the job is posted, but what it takes to actually run a firm, you got to be out there digging and creating and talking up projects and seeing projects and going knocking on doors and, making things happen. And that's business skill. So I'll take another question and then I'll show you the model.
Okay, so this question is from Braylon James. It says, what is your opinion on the state of design today?
The state of design?
Mm-hmm. That's a big question.
I think this, listen, I have a lecture called White Default, where everything is magnetized, if you will, okay, to a dominant white culture and a dominant international style that has popped through since Bauhaus. If you ask me, it all looks alike. And there is a pushback now, which I'm so excited about. And you will hear me say, and I've said it to IBM straight up, you know, Chris Rudd, IIT, asked me, Ms. Miller, what's your Confederate flag and statue you want to take down? I said, Paul Rand's left, flush left, Helvetica, rag right, Catholic School, United Health blue. I said, I'm sick of it. Not only am I sick of it, it reminds me of an era of the height of white supremacy and systemic racist practices in the graphic design era. I said, every time I see that stuff, I feel like somebody's knee is on my neck. So what I am seeing is a pushback that this international style since Bauhaus that has been elitist and divisive, I see a pushback. And where do I see a pushback? I see a pushback in the Brazilian designer and his team for Burger King. And, you know, okay, so the new Burger King iconography looks international, which is, looks global, which is different than international look, which all looks Swiss, German, and less is more. Can't everything look like that? Okay, but Burger King, they've gone a global. If you see, I'm a corporate wife. I've traveled with my husband. You look at McDonald's. I see McDonald's in China. You know, stuff. There is a global look, global design teams. Okay, so there's a pushback that design is representing the globe. All right, and there's going to be dominant culture, but it's taking its place. All right, it's taking its place in a bigger theater. And for a while, it's always going to sit there as a corporate look, but you're going to find these expressions like Burger King is a good example. Here's another one for you. I'm waiting for a release. Miss Magwood, I can't remember her first name. She is the creative director for the White House. And I'm waiting for a clearance to interview her. The Biden-Harris campaign design is without form and fashion and unique in color, presentation, style, does not look at all like the Obama administration. And what I'm proud to say that the Obama administration creative director and the Biden-Harris administration creative director, they're both Black women. Okay, and so I've got a promise to feature them, the Obama graphics and the Biden graphics. They're two different looks, and Obama-Harris graphics broke so many rules to make new rules. And so the answer to your question, I think there's a pushback. Yesterday there was Audrey Bennett article came out about the golden, was it the golden grid thing? Has its origins in Africa. All right. Listen, the cadre of African design with a K, African design, the Pan-African designers, stuff is gorgeous. They're pushing back and bringing forth new aesthetic. And so there's a new move, and the move is every voice is valid. So get busy bringing your aesthetic forward. I'm telling everybody, just compete, compete. Flush left, Helvetica, rag right. There's a pushback on it, okay? Dare to be different and dare to be new. Really, that international look, it's always going to be dominant, but there's a pushback.
Okay. That's the only question for right now.
Okay.
If anyone else has other questions, please post them, and then Cheryl will answer them as we go.
Okay, so let's look at some business. What's my hour? How long do I have?
It's 3:42 here, so.
Okay, so let's look at some handouts. Let's look at, this is content. This is not for look, okay? This is content for a proposal. All right, can you see that? It says Mary Kay Cosmetics.
Yes.
Okay, all right. This is content only, not look. All right, so this is I'm selling. This is a proposal. I have 250 of those large posters in my collection. I am interested in selling them to a women's organization. Okay, so I'm creating an avenue to sell my overs, which are now vintage and they're collectible. No one has, these are not for sale. They were never for sale. They're in these museums. NASA commissioned the launch poster for the first African-American female astronaut. They're not on sale. They were never on sale. They were commissioned and they were launch posters. So I'm pitching, as example, I'm pitching women's organizations to purchase a lot and they can give them, you know, to board directors, thank yous. They can do whatever they want to do with them. Okay. All right. So here are your contents. You know, I talk is a artist statement. I talk about the fact that they're vintage and a portfolio bio and so forth. So I discuss who I am and what the value, okay? If you get one of these, you buy into the value of my story. And I discuss what it is that I'm selling. And it's a discussion of, you know, these are they're vintage, and a description of them. The story that they're collected, how much African-American vintage memorabilia and ephemeral is going for. So we always talk about other posters that, you know, like for example, Emory Douglas has Black Power posters. What's that in comparison? You do some juxtaposition. Other posters like, you know, Amos Kennedy has posters. So if you're looking at vintage African-American corporate posters, what are they going for? Okay, and so you have this dialogue, and then you always are rehearsing that you own the rights for them. What you have, you own the rights to sell. It talks about the value of all of my corporate posters, and that they're collected and that there are they're investments. So you want these because they're collectible. You don't, I mean, you can hang it if you want, but the whole point is that my notoriety creates value for the product. So we start talking about the value. These also are for sale, okay? And they're in museums. And this is content, okay? So, you know, I might make a deck like this just to get down what the proposal will have in it. Okay, and I have these to sell. So, you know, you want these, you can have these too. You know, they're all collectibles. A discussion of my career, why it's important for you to get one of my posters. And that I'm collected. That's the, you know, when we talk about art collection and investment, this is all directed toward the value. If you buy them, this is the value that's behind them. They're already collected. Okay, which means that you can resell them. They can be auctioned. Every time I win an award or something, my work gets valued. I suppose it's going to be most valued when I'm dead and gone. But it's not going to be any value if you don't buy it now, okay? Discussion of who I am, et cetera, et cetera. Artist statement and goals. Other shows and things that I've won and been in. All right, so that all gives me, I work out, I work out a story, and then, I make pretty. Okay, so this one is for my lecture and speaking tour proposal. All right.
I don't think that it's showing, Cheryl.
Oh, okay. Let me do this one. There we go. You should see it. It's red.
Yeah, it's up now.
Okay. So this one is make pretty, I'm presenting this is PDF deck. Okay, partnership objective. People want me to do things with them, and so I talk about what my lectures are involved. Target market, major corporations, academic institutions, company lectures, keynote, graduation. I talk about where I want you. Look, I'm a keynote speaker, and I've been. Trust me, I got a speaking business. Everybody wants a speaking business. Starts with you gotta have something to say. All right, and so people write me, and if it's something big and fancy, they get one of these decks. And I have descriptions of all the lectures that I give. Brand marketing strategies, your total investment of having me, biotext about me. All right. Stuff you can use when people want to promote me for their event and stuff. So the biotext, the contact information, presentation deck. This is when you're making, decks and proposals, are when you're making an advance to create work. And a proposal, a price proposal, I think I have that's different. So if somebody comes and says, how much is a book going to cost for you to do? So let's look at that. All right. Okay. This is just a letter of endorsement, let you know that I'm telling you the truth. I would always get corporate endorsements, and we had great goodwill, and I always got corporate endorsements. Business plan. It had these basic philosophy of the business, background, critical success factors. This is really, a lot of times people don't want to do a business plan, but doing a business plan, trust me, you do a business plan and put it away and it happens. You may never go back to that business plan. Dr. Cross, if you do a good 35 to 50 page business plan, fold it and put it on a shelf, I can't tell you, it's like magic, supernatural. It unfolds and it happens. Okay. And so let's look at all the different pieces. You have the management, operational. It's a standard business plan, but this is standard too. I wrote it. I wanted a design firm, Cheryl D. Miller Design New York. And then I think the other thing that is important is that I analyze my competition. I'm like, but I analyzed it against white firms because there wasn't another Black firm. There were, there were people who had freelance businesses. I had rent. Lexington Avenue, 11th floor or 15th floor. I'm like, oh my God, I got square footage and leases, and I had a firm. And so comparing myself to white firms is what I needed to see what my competition, what I would need, who could bid me out of work. And, I needed to know that. Perform a balance in business. I learned what also helped is my husband is MBA exec type. So, he helped me with understanding business, and, we worked, I had a team. I think I had 3 or 4 lawyers. I had a lawyer for everything. I had a labor attorney. I had an intellectual property attorney. attorney, a contract attorney, a general attorney, and definitely a labor attorney, because when you have people working for you, they always think you owe them something. So I'm like, no, I don't think so. So I had a labor attorney. All right. And all these things went, to the business. And then equipment and inventory, a projection of what I was going to need. Then we had cameras. And then ultimately, the Macintosh came. So I had leases, and all of that needed to be analyzed. And you write your, this was the structure for my business plan. So this is the outline of the things that were in it. This is a contract submitted to develop, cost estimate, things that I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how these firms are making money today, because you bundle up so much in design. I'm like, no, you should be paying for all of that, the type, and when it's laid out, and you guys stream and type and stuff. And I'm like, no, I don't know. I would charge. I still would charge. Okay, no matter how much computer collapsing of stages is happening. You are my concept phase, my editorial phase was one charge, and then my layout phase. And so that was all part one, the steps: design, concept, editorial services. So if we wrote, or any editing, or anytime, one of my writers, or if I had to do anything with the manuscript, and every time the manuscript was typeset, it always had to be proofed. So all of the proofing, design and layout. So after the concept, all the comps. So when you're studying this, you're all doing mock-ups. Okay, that's only phase one of the job. All right, so you're learning good comprehensive skills. But I would charge for that before we even, and sometimes I would just do this portion of the job in order to get, we're going to do the job. So, and you would pay me to do this, nothing on spec. In other words, oh, Cheryl, just do that and then we'll pay you if we like it. I'm like, yeah, you think so? You better go someplace else with that. Okay, so all of this was a phase one: designing it, meeting with you, laying it out, application of the design to grid, maybe a first run on the type, laying the book out. There was a photographic supervision. So if I had to go out and take all those pretty pictures, if I had to go, to somebody's office, the art direction fee, the photo editing fee, there's a photo editing fee. When a photographer gives me contact sheets and films, I could be there forever, with a loop or online now, like, okay, what photography am I using? I charge to look at a batch of pictures that would be in a book. Okay. The photography fee, what was the fee per day? And then all of the items, the film, the processing, all out-of-pocket travel expenses, all of that was a photography fee that I charge for that. You have to make money on everything you do in a firm, or you won't have a firm. You won't be able to pay, you'll be able to pay everybody. You won't get paid. You've got to make profit. And that's the key that I'm concerned when I see a lot of postings and things and questions. I'm in a couple of groups. I just, I just observe, and I'm like, oh, you guys are not making enough money. Okay, you're not making enough money. You're not charging for enough things, and you're just making enough for your salary, but you're not making profit. And that's what business is. Okay, and being able to make profit on everything you do is business, and that's okay. It's business. Okay, production. So pasting it up would be flowing it in design and charging for all that typography, the Xeroxes, the deliveries, FedEx, illustrations, travel, anything. Okay, would get bundled up under a production fee. Okay, and I wasn't bashful about, look at that. I'm in 1980, I'm charging $60 an hour for a pay stub, which would be, if we were doing InDesign and you were sitting there doing production and you had a stack of notes and things and you were following it and you're making $60 an hour. You're making $60 an hour now. I was making that then. All right. And so that inflated up. All right. I'm making money. I have to make money and I have to pay my paste up artists. So the shop's got to make money. The paste up artist has got to make money. So on a $60 fee, I might pay $20, $25. I'm making $35, $40 for every hour somebody's working. That's allowing me, okay, that's allowing me to run the shop, pay for the telephone, pay for the lease. You must make profit, okay? I made money on 20% of the printing, okay? No matter where the printing is, even if you do Vistaprint, okay? I own all of the art and all of the production. I own the product until I get paid. Oh, yes, I do. In my initial contracts, I own the copyright for all my work. I know that's crazy, but everything I produce, I own the copyright for. That means that they have an endless license for usage. But if I want to do something with it, I retained all my copyrights for every job I've ever done. That's unbelievable, but it's in my contracts. All right. And the printing, I make 20% standard markup on the printing costs. And then even if it's Instaprint now, digital printing, every time I call on a job to make sure it's okay, it'd be either $350 for the first half day of calling and checking on your job or $500 for the whole day. Okay, so if it's really digital press and I'm hanging on a press to make sure the job is right, or even if I'm ordering it digital, the time that I spend to make sure your job comes in, I charge for. Printing, I charge for each color. So if it's digital +1 or 4-color process, old lithography, every color was a charge. Embossing, all those pretty books, they all had tissues and embossing and stamps and stuff. You paying for that. I'm not paying for that. I would give a cost estimate for each one of those phases. So you could see the whole, it's a summary, the design and creative, the photography, the paste up, okay, a total cost estimate of everything. Project description, this is my contract. So, and it was done by phases and revisions. Every time you change your mind, look, I was not cheap. I had responsibilities and I was running a firm. And it's like, if you couldn't pay for this level of design work, then you went someplace else. It was okay with me. Because short of that, you were gonna give me a headache. So I don't like headaches, all right? So when you came into my shop, into my firm, it was about business. You weren't in the wrong place. If you got referred to me or I pitched on a corporate level, this was how I did business. No shortcuts. Right-sized. My clients was right-sized to the way I conducted business. So I had clients that could pay, whether they were individual, organizational, not-for-profit or corporate. You did not come unless you met the requirements of what it took to do business with me. Okay, so my hourly rates were reflective of that. A payment, you're gonna pay me. We mapped out the payment agreement. Typically it was 1/3 of half the cost of phase one, no more than 4 installments. So either in 3s or 4s, I'm paid, I'm done, this thing is delivered. Never had a job return. Third payment, sales tax. The sales tax is reflected on the bill, okay, upon the completion of the camera ready art. Revisions and addition. Oh, change your mind. I don't care if you change your mind. You're gonna pay me if you change your mind. And you knew that going in. Okay, so my contracts, do you understand? Because when you sign this is what I'm gonna be, there's no surprises. So I don't have a problem. I see folks having a fit. I see folks having a fit. They changed their mind. Said, okay, so did you put that in the contract? Did they sign that they're responsible for every time they change their mind? Okay, and then you don't be wrong, because if you're wrong, then you pay. I was never wrong. No errors. Check, double check, sign off, proof, sign off. All right. You're not changing your mind on me without you paying for it. So when a person takes a serious attitude about their own work and what you do, to which you can demand, you don't have all this foolishness. you don't. Oh, and don't rush me. If I tell you it's going to take 30 days, it'll take 30 days and I deliver in 30 days. Then all of a sudden, Cheryl, can you do it in 15 days? I'm like, really? Okay. In your contract, did you see supercharge, surcharge? Okay, if I've got to go into overtime or overdrive because you changed your mind. Are you clear? Yes, Cheryl, I'm clear. Reimbursable expenses, they paid. Okay, they paid. All of the things that go with doing a job. Who's going to pay for you? If you don't do that, who's going to pay for your copier? Who's going to pay for the ink? You've seen HP inkjet costs? Who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the paper, ink, and the paper? Just running copies to get a job proofed. Okay, and then you take all of those prices. Who's going to pay for FedEx, UPS, and all this stuff overnight? All right, and your cable charge, your Wi-Fi, and all of that. You can't pay all of that on your own and not make money. All right, they're accountable for every job that you've got to do all of this stuff for, and then you mark it up 20%. Reimbursable budgets. And this was for printing, fabrication, installations, billing. Oh yeah, you're gonna pay me in 30 days. That's why at the top, I outlined how you're gonna pay me. You're gonna give me a deposit. And then there's gonna be a surcharge of 1.5% unpaid balance. So I would bill you net 30, and then if you went in the net 40, you're giving me 1.5 of unpaid balance. Okay. All the typesetting, you're going to approve. Don't tell me I did anything wrong. You're going to sign off before I go to each stage, and I own all the rights. There it is right there. No work for hire. I don't have any work for hire. I own all copyrights for reproduction and grants unlimited license and uses for client purpose unless otherwise specified. Okay. I own all the copyrights for every piece of work because I never knew what in the world I was going to turn out to be. Suppose I want to take all of this now and put it somewhere, do a book. I got to track down everybody and this, that, and the other. No, I own all the copyrights. Okay, this is if I got illustrations from people of photography. You have temporary possession of those things. When the job is finished, you're going to give me back. You're going to give me back the original photography. You're going to give me back the original illustrations. Third-party contracts, credit. Oh, here's one. Every book says designed by Cheryl Miller, Design New York, or designed and produced by Cheryl D. Miller, Design Inc., New York. Why? It has everything to do with the history of us. I didn't know it then, but now I do know, okay, that Black graphic designers up from slavery, the erasure. Who would believe that I did all this work? No one. Oh, I put my name on everything. My name is on everything in the seam of the books. And I gave credit for everybody. Okay? Everybody. Right there, always, or in the seam. When the collection went to Stanford, I contacted everybody. I said, listen, you did this work for me. I own it, but out of respect. Do you want to be noted in Stanford? You were my illustrator. You were my photographer. You were my printer. Everybody got credit. And all of my books have my copyright in them because no one would believe, is she telling the truth? Uh-huh, I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you the truth. Sample photographs. Don't keep sample photographs. You're gonna give them back to me. Confidentiality. If there was portions of the book that were NDA, that kind of thing. You know, I'm not talking about your project. You're not talking about the content of your project. Agreement is governed by New York, state of New York, because that's what I was practicing. And either party can terminate the agree. Well, I wasn't paying anybody back. So we say that the entire agreement is between us. The client says that he or she has full authority to go into this relationship with me, the time schedule, and I would agree to delivery. And don't slow me up. Okay, I'm going to deliver. When I agree, if it's 30 days, if it's 10 days, trust me. Everybody signs, you give me a check, we start. A typical invoice. Okay, the way the contract is written and the proposal is the way that I invoiced. Job number, phase, whether it was phase 1, 2, or 3, description, you're gonna give me my deposit, so upfront. Okay, on this job was $15,000. All right, so what I just showed you was the net of, proposals, estimates, and invoice. I showed you the outline to the business plan, and this is the basic format of my bylaws. Okay, I was incorporated in the state of Delaware, I think, at the time. The seal, the offices in the state of New York. I had a corporate seal, shareholder meetings, annual meetings, this discussion. Yeah, I had a corporation, it's an LLC. And the list of the participants, board of directors, the number of directors, filling those boards, etc. This is just a standard, let's see, there was something, committees. Yeah, I had a corporation. The different articles, etc. Okay. So the only reason I stopped, there's only one reason why I stopped. And then one, I couldn't sell it. My clients wouldn't let me sell it. Meaning, like, it's one thing to have design. I had designers who could design, but I didn't have anybody who could make the money. All right. And that's a big difference. I had a hustle. I can make money. So I could make the clients. And my clients wouldn't respond to my designers that way. So unless I had a partner who could sell the business, there would be no business. So I had excellent designers. Okay. And I in essence, I taught them my style, and we had a style, but not one of them could make the money. And that's like, no, you gotta be able to meet people, write corporations, call. I mean, I was selling market, and a part of that, Dr. Cross, a part of that passion was I believed in what I was doing. Meaning, like, we were doing something different. We were doing something important, and we were really good at it. So I believed in it. Every morning, my husband would say to me, "Don't forget, sell Cheryl Miller." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." And by the end of the day at dinner, he says, "Did you sell Cheryl Miller?" And I'm like, "Yeah." You know, how many proposals, how many cold calls, 24 hours a day. I'm hustling. We do this. Nobody else is doing this. And, you know, I'd be bold and crazy like that. I'm crazy like that now. So I just didn't start being crazy with this. I've been like this since I was a kid. I got something different. I don't know about, and that would be my line. I don't know about anybody else. I said, I got something different. We're good. We deliver. This was going to cost. And, you know, so I learned to sell. The key was I learned to sell the business. I learned to make, so I needed to stop. I really needed to stop. And because I needed to raise a family. I needed to get a family, make a family, and raise a family. So by the time I got to the 90s, I'm getting older because I've been doing this since I was a kid. I've done so much artwork since I was a kid and so much selling. And I just, you know, I started winding the business down. I even took it and moved it. And when my kid was 2 years old, I'm like, I'm done. And I couldn't sell it. And I thought, well, maybe if I sold it, I could like keep the rights, that kind of thing. But it was more than just selling the business. Somebody had to have the swag to make the business. And I had great designers, but that also meant that you had to know people. You had to not be afraid to go just don't wait for the phone to ring, you know, to make these opportunities. And one of the examples I have now is like Dr. Seuss. Oh, I'd be up on PBS or wherever that publisher was like, okay, Dr. Seuss is dead. Bury him. I got something else for you. I got that proposal and those characters in that book right there, you know, competing. And unless you can do that, then you have a freelance business and you're waiting for the phone to ring. And I wanted more than that, Dr. Cross. And so this is how I did it, but it had everything to do with really the keys to business. And there are a lot of things that you can read, you know, design business books and the guideline book. You know, if the guideline book says your logo is $5,000, then your logo is $5,000. And if they don't want to pay you whatever it is that you want, then don't do it. And I know I'm crazy like that, but and I'm still operating like that. Okay. Where am I operating like that? You want to, listen, Dr. Cross, an article site, they take scholars' articles. You think it's a big deal to get published by them. And I wrote them, but if I'm a scholar and I go to an article site and I want and you're published by them, and I want your article so I can read it and make a citation and do whatever scholarship, I pay $40, $50 for your article. So that particular company, I just wrote them and I'm like, I'm an acclaimed writer. I'm just going to let you publish my articles. People want my articles and you charge them $50 for a download for one of my articles. And you're not going to give me, we're not going to share in that. So I wrote them. I said, can I monetize my articles? People want my articles. People want my scholarship. Okay, I'm just going to let you publish it because you got a name and then it's going to be $50 a download. I'm like, I don't think so. So I wrote them. I said, if I sign up with you, upload my articles, can I monetize with you? They wrote back, no, Dr. Miller, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay. Well, okay. I know I got click factor. You all want my articles. I'm like, okay, no problem. No problem. I'll figure out $50 for an article. I'm not worried about, I've just, you know, I'd love to be published by you, but I got a Kindle account. I'll have a download right off my website. I'm not thinking about you. Okay, so that's why, like, you know, you just have to keep on. I mean, yeah, I wanted the publisher. I wanted the name stamped on the article. But if you're not going to split that $50 with me on that download, okay, and I promise you that people will want my articles, what? Just to have you brand on the title page? I said, I don't think so. Not when I got a track record and everybody wants to read me. I'm like, no, I don't think so. See, and so unless you kind of like stick up for yourself, you're losing money. And so, you know, I'm a businesswoman. I'm a businesswoman. And so here we go. That's it. That's Cheryl Miller. That's how she does it. And that's it. That's it.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And each one of us has this. I am not the only one. You guys have a voice, and you all have swag, and you've got to figure out what that is and compete. I'm telling everybody, compete, and don't let these obstacles get in your way. I swear, I'm getting all these life. I was just talking to Dr. Cross. I said, I'm so honored that I'm getting lifetime achievements. Well, it took a lifetime to qualify. I'm getting one, Dr. Cross. They sent me, I downloaded how to get the award. I mean, it starts with I had to be here a minimum of 25 years to fill out the registration to get the citation. Okay, they're not asking me for any money. It's an honest, you'll see it. But a part of the qualification for lifetime accomplishment is, were you doing this at least 25 years? I'm like, oh my God, Cheryl, you're all over the place because if anything, you've been marching in place, you withstood the time, okay? You did not give up. So if the qualification for a Lifetime Achievement Award is a minimum of 25 years and you qualify to be competitive, I don't know anybody else who's lasted 50 years. That's got a volume of work to be juried. If I had given up, the qualifier was my persistence. Jesus. And I don't want you'll hear me say it. I don't want anybody to go through what I've been through in 50 years. You don't deserve it. And that's what keeps me going with this work and these lectures. And, Professor Raja, okay, she says, Mother Miller, you have deputized us. I'm like, yes, keep going. There were only a few of us. Now is an army. Come on, guys, compete. Now that you know the game, compete. Be the best. And don't, push back.
Well, I love what you, thank you so much for sharing your business plan and your contract, because these are all things that our students are learning in our business classes. And just to hear about someone using these tools in practice is so rich and very, I think, helpful for students to see the value in them. Okay, so one question says, if you weren't doing design, what do you think you'd be doing?
There's no answer to that, because this is all I've ever done. I started this when I was 3 years old. And my dad, and I started getting critiques when I was 3 years old. My dad had a friend who was a high school art teacher, and I started drawing, like at the beginning of this, I started drawing those Mickey Mouse things because Walt Disney had just started. And I would draw those things, and he would go to a men's club meeting. And every time he would go out and see Mr. Mackey, I said, would you take my drawing, Papa, and ask Mr. Mackey if I have talent. And Mr. Mackey advised my father, and by the time I was 10, I started winning awards. And then by the time I got to high school is when the schools opened up. Because all these schools, I went to AIGA and ASAD schools. They weren't letting Black folks in. And there was no category of BIPOC. I was a Black child, okay? So that's not what, I said I started at this when Martin Luther King got shot. We were in the height of the civil rights movement, and I'm in Washington, D.C., okay? I couldn't go to Glen Echo. I couldn't go to Glen Echo Park, which was over the bridge, like a little Disney park. There were places in Washington on the streetcar we couldn't even ride. We had to ride in the back. Listen. So I persevered through all of that. And then it's been so challenging that honestly, I had a chance when my kids we're going college touring. I have 2 kids back to back. And from Virginia to Maine, I have 2 kids cut from different cloths, one's, political, and the other one is communications, So we're looking at 2 different kinds of schools. And I sat not only listening in all of the, Dr. Cross, every school from University of Virginia to Maine, up the coast and east to west, from 95 in. Okay. I sat through 2 kids of information sessions thinking, did I do the right thing? Because it was so hard. I said, did I do the right thing? Did I study the right thing? So I'm listening for them, you all like this school, we're going here, you're applying here. But all the time I'm sitting there, Cheryl, look at all these things you could study. What would you do differently? Nothing.
That's telling and awesome.
Nothing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I was supposed to be a writer. Okay,
Yeah.
that's what came to help. Writing came, and I had a choice to go to English Lit in Wellesley, or RISD in art, and so those 2 schools opened up invitations for me to apply. I could have gone. My English teacher said, if you want to write, let me know. Okay, my yearbook, this junk I went through with my art teachers, it was my English teacher all in my yearbook. So that's what's prevailed. Where I didn't have design and art help, I had a good writing coach. And then when I went to seminary, I learned history and scholarship and writing. And, if I had gone to writing, I wouldn't have anything to write about. Going to design, I got all kinds of things to write about. And I'm a good writer. Okay. So along the way, if anything, I became a professional trade writer and a writer. So, and this crazy business has given me something to write about. You got to have something to write about. Okay. I'm not fiction or anything like that. I'm a historian, I'm a scholar. So we write about footnotes. And so the answer to your question is I'm doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing after a whole lot of soul searching, nothing else. And I think the telling tale, Professor, is I really did sit in those information, those information, oh, we have this, we have that, and you get this degree here and that, the school of this. And I'm like, Cheryl, you'd still find your way to the art department.
Well, what I think is so remarkable is the way that the Cheryl D. Miller collection started was through your writing, through that particular scholar finding your thesis, and it opened up a whole well of awareness about all of your design works.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, even when I closed the office, my son was 2. I said, I can't be going to New York. And I'm like, you know what? This is okay. I've done more in a lifetime than most people will dream. It's okay. I'm going to give the future of this to the good Lord. I'm not going to worry about it. And so he was 2. I dissolved the business in 2000. And I said, done. And the minute my last one got to college, the minute is when all of it started coming back. It's like, sure, you're not finished. I'm like, I'm not finished. Like, no, you're not finished. You're not finished. And now, now they're in college, they can take care of themselves and they're on their way. And there's more things to do. And I'm like, okay, so here we are until we're not. And I'm so excited that I am back on the road, and that I fit now in so many places. People get it. It didn't fit when I was young, but it's fitting now. It works. I'm authentic. I got a story. God's blessing me with it. I'm meeting so many people, and the young scholars are so bright, and you have a future. And it's important. One of the sad things that I notice is everybody's walking around like they don't know who they are, that they don't come from a line of designers. And, you know, you do come, there is a family, there's a family of it. I have peers, we all, we all have cadres and mentees. Many of us that are alive, we have history notes, and this is the work that we're doing to make sure that you guys know that you're not alone. And that's why, I talk to everybody all the time, because I didn't have anybody. I'm like, yeah, it was hard not having anybody. So, if you see me on LinkedIn or on Instagram and your green light is on, I say, you better talk to me now. Don't make an appointment. Just talk to me now. If I'm here, that means I'm available now, So I'm meeting so many people. I love this season. My kids are good. I did the mom thing really great, So we keep on here. I took my shots, which means I can come out of Zoom soon. I'll come to Texas. Oh my God, I'm so busy in Texas. I gotta come. Thank God I got a sister-in-law in Texas. So,
Yes, you'll have to come to Texas. You're in demand in Texas, it seems.
I'm in Texas. All right. I just want to know this barbecue. Okay, that's all.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions, but I do have a question for you that we can end on. And that's just because that's the researcher in me. What would you, if a future researcher were to have interest in doing research in the Cheryl D. Miller collection, what would you like to communicate to the world? What would you like that researcher to focus their attention on?
That's a good one. I couldn't even, you know what? I'm gonna have to think on that. There's a whole lot of how to, and it's almost like you have to dissect all of my footnotes. It could be something that you're looking for,
right?
That you find, you find within the body of work. Like all of my, let's take our national African American organizations. They all had biographies or stories. And so they could be cross references into, I published little history books for clients. And when Regina came, her eyes were going like, oh my God. And pictures, of our leaders. And so the political science researchers could get in there, civil rights historians could get in there. It's not all about design work. It's about who I was publishing. And so there's a lot of information that scholars would want to read if there a lot of political science and history, because that's what I'm documenting. And design is almost least of it. Unless design would be looking at my practice. If anybody wanted to write about me, and there's design practice and thinking in there. But I think who I was publishing for it's a lot of history in my books. A lot of political science. They wanted it for 5 schools, Dr. Cross. They wanted my one collection for 5 schools. Let's see if I can remember them. Feminist studies, American history, anthropology, design, and there's another one.
So even that helps to kind of give some benchmarks in terms of like possibilities for researchers.
Yeah, anthropology, political studies, history, feminist studies, design. So civil rights history.
From a design standpoint, which I know those in our college would be very interested in this, what are some of the key themes that you feel like, or markers that distinguish your design style? Like, what are some of the themes that design researchers would want to go into
Well, the
your
history of technology, because all of my work up until the 90s is done without computers.
Mm.
So sketches and process are in the job jackets. So to see how the work was done by hand without Macintosh, there was no Macintosh. There's no Macintosh. Okay, so there are galleys. That one white book, the white book that I showed you,
Mhm.
that book alone is a class. I'm so proud of how I kept those notes. So the grid, pagination, type specification. There was no InDesign flowing or anything like that. Okay, all the galleys for the jobs. You could see my design thought all the way up through production, how I developed the grid, how I spec the type. That job jacket for that alone is a class all by itself.
Mm.
And how I did all of that without Macintosh. Okay, which is, that's like doing mathematics without iPhone calculator.
Right. So the technology development, or rather like where technology in design was at that moment, or what the process of design was in that moment.
Yeah, and what's unique is that my books don't reflect not having typography. And I'm intentional with that. So I'm a typographer. I can design this. The key is that I can design. It doesn't matter the technology or not. I will make the same design theory decisions. And you can see that in my work, okay? Because there's a progression of work done pre-Macintosh to the early stages of Macintosh. So the early stages of Macintosh is that BET book where I said Michelle was interested in doing digital illustration. And those are some of the beginning books done with the Macintosh. All right. And they still have a look. I wasn't dependent. I'm concerned that we've become dependent on technology and that we're not designing first. We don't design until we get on the computer. I'm like, no, there's a process. If you want unique work, you have to plan it out. And so design theory is very important. And then you go to the computer. So the scholars that I see now, I do capstone and critique and jury. And that's why the work all looks alike. You're all dependent on how far the technology, you need to be in control of the technology. Okay, you can't be driven by how much of a program you know to do. Suppose you only do one drop down and a skew over. That's the only trick you know with that program. So learning the theory, you have to master. And if you can't master the technology, you pay for somebody. That's what I would do. I'm like, no, you follow these sketches. To follow the design thinking, follow the theory. Okay, just don't hop on a computer, because you might be subject to not knowing all the ins and outs of Adobe. Mm-hmm. Who knows all the ins and outs of Adobe? No, here's my sketch. Let me find somebody who's mastered Adobe and can't think their way out. They can't think their way out of a bag, but they're technical and they know every corner of Adobe. They should be able to take all of my crazy design theory and make it. So where we limit ourselves is not doing the design theory up front, and we're only subject to how much Adobe we can do. Mm-hmm. Okay, so no, and what you don't know, you find somebody who does know, and that's called production, and you pay for that, and you like, listen, implement this design for me. Okay, and I don't see a lot of that. What I see is us being limited by the technology that stumps us with these programs.
So walk me through what your process would. You talked about typography. Walk me through your process of what that might look like for a project.
Like a publication? Mm-hmm. Well, first off, I would take I would take a spread. A spread would be left page, right page. And I would develop my own grid. Okay. I love doing that. Okay. I would develop, I don't use anybody's grid, and I don't use those layout things that you just drop down and no. I would design a unique grid. Left page, right page. And once I had that grid on a tissue, then I would plop that in Quark Express or InDesign. I don't use pre-made template grids or anybody else's grid or stuff that I find online grid. No, let me say what a column width is going to look like. Let me say where the caption is going to fall. Let me say where the headline type. Let me put down marks where ornaments will go. Let me decide how I'm going to carve up white space. And that exploration would take that. For me, I don't just do one grid. I do several. And left page, right page, because in paginating, that left page, there's a rhythm. All right. And so the cover and the back and the way the pages are going. All right. I would work out those margins in those columns. And then I start there. And then I would stylize. Well, no, then after that, I would figure out how much type I have. So if I have a manuscript, I would have to figure out per page a typed or computer typed manuscript. How many pages is this? And I can tell that by how many pages per line. I mean, how many characters per line, and how many lines on that page. Okay, so I need to know, okay, how much text is going to be on this page. So if I have a document that's 2,500 words, and each page is valued at 100 words, let's say. All right. And so what? I have 25 pages, and then I have to map this thing out because it's got to end up in an increment of 4. I know where my white space is. So I just don't, even now, I'm just not going to get on a computer and then just rip and rag, drop and snag and right. I need to know what this thing is going to look like. And once I get that kind of like undergirding, then I start stylizing. All right. And I will do samples. So then I will pull the computer out and say, okay, well, let me look how much leading, which typeface, do I have to, then I would make design decisions by stylizing. All right. And then I would make sample pages and study them. All right. So sample pages would be, okay, here's my body. Here's my headline. This is my caption. And I, just like you all use mirror boards like that, mural boards. I would do my research for how I want my page to feel. To do a nice book, you have to study type and try it on. It's like clothes. And I wouldn't just do the first one. It's like, okay, each typeface has a nuance. Is this Bodoni? Is this Garamond? Is this serif? Is this sans serif? There's so many typefaces now. So which one is going to give me the feel? And the leading is important. How much space? How much space is this going to each page? Each page is going to give me a feel. So once you have your left page and your right page figured out in terms of style, then you can, the value of each page in terms of characters and words. So that each page is valued at 100 pages. All right. And if you have a manuscript, then you're able to plan your book out, how it's going to look. And then you make pretty on top of it, all kinds of, layers and stuff like that. Now the stuff the computer can do, to make a good solid book. It's the first thing a book has to do Dr. Cross, is be read. And if you can't read the book, and if you can't design a book that can be read, you're making pretty for yourself.
Right. Right. That's right.
You're making pretty for yourself. So
Well, thank you for answering that. I just imagined that students would be interested in understanding your process of design, as well as because so much of the collection really illustrates these ideas and what you're saying. So
and follow me. I collect research. I research a lot. Okay, like my Pinterest boards are full of fractals. Okay, you would think I was running a firm for the way I collect. I collect palette. I collect symbols. I collect. It's kind of like having things in a freezer, and then somebody's coming over and, oh, I got dinner. I just collect stuff. I study design all day long. And I put up templates, I put up palettes, I put up typefaces, I put up symbols, I put up artists that I like. You know, I do a lot of research. And that's what makes for really exciting projects, because you just don't know what research that you've collected that you just like a piece. Sometimes it's just a corner of a piece I like. I'm like, wow, look at that. I really like that. So, you know, I do a lot about the business of being a designer, Dr. Cross. I just don't wait for a project to show up. It's lifestyle. It's like they always say, if you want to be, you know, how many times have you heard, you want to be a writer, you have to read a lot of books. You want to be a musician, you got to listen to music. You want to do that, you want to do this, you got to look at a lot of design, and design from around the world, you know, not just, you know, flush left, rag right, Helvetica. You got to look around the world, look around.
As I think you mentioned in our last panel about your travels and how that having that worldview of having seen the world, and how that helps you to have that more global perspective on design.
But we can do that right from Google Maps. You don't have to wait. You don't have to wait to get on a plane anymore. Like, you know, you really can study different areas. Like I get a chance to revisit, now that I'm teaching history, I get a chance to revisit my vacation pictures and things, you know, like I'm doing, if you're studying now, we're going around the bend of Art Nouveau. We should be in Art Nouveau week. Okay, you look at your 15 weeks and the history of graphic design, you should be going down that way in the lectures. And I'm like, oh, Cheryl, you've been to Vienna. Okay, and so you know, I'm like, Miller, where are my Vienna vacation pictures? You know, because the flourishes are there. And you know, I think what was fascinating for me in my travels, you know, I've been a lot to the Mediterranean, and seeing McDonald's in the Mediterranean is interesting. Okay, and that's you know, that's interesting to see these solutions with American business in the world, you know. And I see it in the new Burger King. I see it in the new Burger King. Kentucky Fried Chicken in China. Those kinds of things. Yeah.
Well, I know that we're getting to the end of our time, but I wanted to give you the opportunity to give a final, if there was a final bit of advice or a message about your story and the collection that you would like to leave with students today.
The only thing I want to leave with the students is you have to compete in excellence, and don't give up. Don't push back, and demand a response to your excellence. Don't expect a response if there's no excellence. Okay, so, you know, oh, by the way, I am a good designer. And that's where it started. That's where it started. I believed it so much. I'm like, you're gonna respect me. You know, and when I look back, that's it. What did I have? I didn't have any influence. I didn't have any favor. You know, all I had was the work. And so, and now I have the story and the awards and everything else. And I wasn't afraid. Like right now, there's so many student awards. To win student awards helps. Okay, so stay out of Starbucks and put your artwork compete. You know, this is student contest season. You know, two things I'll leave you with that. Trey Seals is Young Gun. He won Young Gun. I interviewed the gentleman who was originally with the Art Directors Club, and now is with his interview is in my article, and he explained the Young Gun contest to me. And he said, the contest, if you win in the contest, you are assured a successful design career. I said, you're kidding. He said, no, I'm not kidding. If you win or place in that Young Guns contest, and then he said, look at Trey Seals. He won it hands down. And he gave me some backstory about it. And I'm like, wow, it's like that with that? He said, yep, you are assured. I just found out, this is my 1987 magazine, Rembrandt. I just gave a lecture, and the gentleman who did, right, his friend from college was under the sound of my voice in a lecture for Rockland Community College. Listen to the story. He called him and he said, man, I just saw a lady talk about your magazine cover. He found me on Instagram, and there Joel is behind, he won. Everybody thought he was white. Joel Peter Johnson. He won. My article's on page 58, and the International Student Cover Design Competition's on 102. So his friend heard my lecture and said, go find Cheryl on Instagram. And there he wins the print. There's the story. He wins the 24th International Student Cover. He did Rembrandt. And he told me, in essence, winning the award made his career. And until he showed up, everybody thought he was white because he did white Rembrandt with the pencil through. And there, his college friend finds me on a lecture and says, go find Cheryl with her article in your magazine. So all these years, he's touting the cover because he won the student print student exhibition, right? Contest for that year, 1987. And I'm carrying that book because I got my award-winning article in there. And so here we meet each other up on Instagram. All right. Wow. Yeah. And
connection. I said, what a connection.
And so I hooked him up with Stanford. I said, send the original to them. They'll take care of it. In other words, your sketches for it. There's a story that edition. Trey Seals bought it on eBay for $60. So if you can find it, it's a collector's item. And, and Joel won a student contest. So getting yourself out there is a part of the story. Getting yourself out there is a part of the story. And so winning the awards and going on and put yourself out there. There's student competitions. Look, I'm like, there are a couple of them raging right now. Like, just, art director awards and all that kind of stuff. You know, you got got to be in it to win it, Dr. Cross.
That's a word right there.
Yeah, so, you know, you get attention and you get attention. It does, it, you know, and now there's been such a press for the jurors to be fair. So there's so much of this story, it's systemic. So now the jurors are diverse. So you have a chance. In my day, there were no diverse jurors. I had to be good in order for all white men on a jury to pick my work. They weren't doing me any favor. Okay, but now there's been so much press that the jurors are diverse, which means you've got a fair chance to win.
Mhm. And diverse perspectives on what good design might be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I've learned a lot about the stuff behind the scenes. And when you look at these contests and you see who the jurors are, then you know whether you have a hope of winning. And then it comes down to, is your work good?
Mhm.
And then the other thing that I would do, Dr. Cross, this is because I was in control of my jobs. Your biggest oh God, I can't do this. Your biggest source of awards are going to be your printers. So the more awards that a printer makes, the more business he gets. So I had a printer who loved getting awards, and his work with me gave us both awards. So he loved doing my work because my work would make his printing look good, and he would front the bill for a lot of the entry. Okay, because it can get expensive to do that. So I would pick award-winning printers because I knew that a part of their agenda was winning awards, and I could design. So with intentionality, I went to work. Since I was in control of my jobs, I picked printers who were award winners because that was a part of their marketing strategy. Okay, I just didn't go to anybody's printer on the corner. I'm like, okay, which one? I would study which one of you guys are winning all the awards.
You mean for your design business, you would contract with the printers that you
Yeah,
felt.
can you hold on a minute? Somebody is calling. Just hold on. Okay, so also that was a big strategy, who to print with. So if I was in charge, I would select printers who were already award winning, and that was a part of their strategy to enter jobs. And so I was popular because I hooked up with the right printer. Okay, so printers knew that my work would make awards. The more awards they got, the more printing they would ultimately get. So a part of the decision was to hang out with award winners. So my photographer, like Gil, is, look up Gil. He's an award winner. So why do I want my books with illustrators that aren't winning awards? So even now, if I was doing, I'll do something, if I want to do project at this point. All right, I know the guys who are winning awards. So I got them all on notice. Okay, I'm paying attention. I'm like, oh man, you won an award with that? Okay. Look, all the award winners, I got them all on attention. So if I get a request for a job, they're already on my team. And so whatever we're gonna do, we're gonna win. So I guess
So it's important to put together a good team, have a good team.
get a good team. Okay. Get a good team. There's no point in me doing work and we can't, because for me, back then a part of competing was winning the awards, and it made the shop popular.
Mhm.
Yeah, and if you don't believe me, Tess never got all the awards in a box, you know. It just so that was it, hanging out with folks that were winning awards, and it just keeps multiplying. And like I said, I got a team now, and I'm like, okay. And I'm always waiting for somebody to say, you know, Cheryl, you know, you're lecturing and you're doing this, that, and the other. You want to do a book? I'm like, yeah, sure. I got a team all ready to go. I'm like, because I've been here before. It's like somebody's gonna ask me to do a book. Somebody's gonna ask me to do a book. You know, and I'm like, yeah, okay. I got enough. I got enough of you guys out here. I can pick up the phone. List. You want to do the logo with me? Oh yeah. Of course. Wait, they call me Auntie. Auntie, are you kidding? Of course. Yeah, yeah. I want to do a book with you. Where is it? So that's the key right there. You guys find your friend, find your tribe, go win some awards. Compete. I'm telling everybody to compete. That's the only way out of this or through it. Compete. Be good. Because we have so many other things that can hinder us. And so it's undeniable. When it's good, it's good. And so after that, that's the only thing I had, Dr. Cross. That's the only thing I had. Can the work win an award? Is it good enough? Yeah. And we did.
Well, I think that's a beautiful place to end our your lecture and our talk today. We thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for your time and for sharing your story with us. I'm assured that students are encouraged, and I'm rooting for a student to actually at some point do some research in your collection. So that's one of my hopes, is that we may have some students that are also interested in design history, and who will take a look at your collection.
Well, Stanford is working on, there's some professors, they're going to start digging in the boxes, and they're coming back with me with, you know, how we can talk about what's in it, and, you know, get busy. We've gotten stopped with the archival stuff because of COVID and actually getting in it. Michael Grant with Google Labs, he knows it intimately. He asked for it, okay, and he was at the other end when the boxes showed up. So, you know, when I need something, he goes in the boxes for me and takes a shot. You know, he knows what's in there. He's fascinated. He goes in there and he's like, you know, he gets lost. He can get lost for days in there. Okay, so he's they're working out something to be able to you know, exhibit or talk, or you know, but he's a hands-on.
So he's the key scholar right now over your collection.
Yeah, he knows what's in there.
Ask Michael.
Ask Michael.
Well, thank you so much again, Dr. Miller. We appreciate you, and I hope that this won't be our last time.
Dr. Cross, I love everything you're doing. I'm here for you all the time.
Well, that's greatly appreciated, and I always get so much from hearing your story, and it's always an encouragement. So much appreciated.
Remember in the days ahead, it really shouldn't take 50 years, but it did.
I know.
It did. Okay. Oh my God. Okay, my friend. And to all of my scholars, God bless. Keep each one of you, and wear your mask. And you know, I'll be down for barbecue soon.
Yes, and we would love that. We would love that. Thank you so much again, and everyone, thank you for coming today.
Okay, take care.
Bye.